Welcome back to another video with the Afro Hippie Journalist. Now, I came across this story this morning and I'm disgusted. First of all, this man will receive no jail time for sexually abusing a 1-year-old child and live streaming it. Now, to my understanding, that's one count of child molestation, a count of child endangerment, a count of child pornography because he live streamed it, and he's not going to jail. Oh, but he has to register as a sex offender for the rest of his life, so that's what he gets. Now, had this man been black, he would have been under the jail. And my thing is, this man has been in jail for 2 years waiting for a conviction, and that's the part that bothers me, even more, is he's been in jail for 2 years. Had he been a black man, he wouldn't have been in jail that long before getting a conviction. His conviction would have been instantaneous. So this piece of shit receives no jail time for what he did. So it says an Iowa teenager who was accused of sexually assaulting a 1-year-old girl while the act was recorded will not serve further jail time after he pleaded guilty to a lesser charge of engaging in lascivious act with a child. A judge this week gave the teenager, Kraigen Grooms, 19, a 10-year suspended sentence and 5 years of supervised release, according to KTVO, a local television station. He must also register as a sex offender. He was released after 2 years and 4 months in jail when he pleaded guilty in July. Some public reaction in the sentencing this week centered on whether the sentence was strong enough. A man whose Facebook page about missing children and fugitives helped investigators identify the defendant was particularly disappointed. He needs to be locked up and have some intensive sex offender treatment, Tim Kaya, who runs the Locate the Missing page, said in an interview. There was a similar reaction in local media. Why is it a first-time drug offense is more likely to get you a prison sentence than child molestation? And a Tomorrow radio commentator asked. And that's something that I find odd as well, that anyone who is a first-time drug offender, they get so many years in prison. And my thing is, like, why are you going to prison? And most of the times the drug is marijuana, weed, a plant that grows from the ground. So how is it that you can get so many years of a jail sentence for that, but not for molesting a child and recording it? Responding to the criticism, Gary Oldenburger, the county attorney for Wapella County, defended the sentence in a statement dated Thursday, presenting Mr. Grooms as the unwitting lackey of child pornographers who tricked him into the assault, as they had done to hundreds of other children. By pretending to be a girl his age, then 16, the two men, one in New Orleans and one in Ireland, persuaded the teenager to perform sex acts he wouldn't otherwise have done. No one can force you to do something. These two people were nowhere near him when this happened. So you can't be forced to do something if no one has a gun to your head. You know what I'm saying? And the fact that he was, 17 at the time, he knew better. Mr. Grooms did not know he was being recorded, the prosecutor said in the statement. It doesn't matter whether or not he was being recorded. The fact is that he did it. Had he not been recorded, no one would have ever known, and this would have continued. He added that the child was uninjured, no pain was inflicted, and the child was too young to be aware of what was happening. So, it's still a child. Though the crime was no less horrible because the child was too young to understand, the lack of injury is an important factor in sentencing. It doesn't matter whether or not the child was, injured or pain was inflicted. The fact of the matter was that it happened and it was recorded. When this child gets older, I'm pretty sure their parents will tell them what happened. I'm pretty sure they will hear about it from someone else. This child is going to be scarred for the rest of their life, even though they don't know what happened then. But when they get older and hear of it, they will be scarred. and they would wonder why this sick piece of shit is not in jail. While it is easy for the outside observer to advocate a hard-line stance that every sexual offense against a minor should result in a long prison sentence, anyone who actually deals with these situations know that each case is unique and every case must be handled on its own merits. I don't care. Molestation is molestation. The case began in March 2014 when investigators at the United States Immigration and Customs Enforcement sought help from the public in identifying someone they believed had engaged in unspecified sexual conduct with the girl, who was between 12 and 18 months old. The encounter had been recorded on video. Mr. Kaya, who lives in Brookings, South Dakota, created a flyer, and the post was shared thousands of times, and commenters zeroed in on Mr. Grooms as a suspect. Mr. Kaya and other commenters called the police, and Mr. Grooms was arrested the following day. Mr. Grooms, who was tried as an adult, was initially charged with second-degree sexual abuse, and that charge carried a punishment of up to 25 years in prison, which should have stuck with him. Mr. Oldenburger said the case likely would have been dismissed had it gone to trial. The parents of the victim did not want Mr. Grooms to serve significant jail time and were more focused on him receiving treatment. The fuck? See, that's one thing about, white people. They're too forgiving of each other for certain things. Had this man been black, they would have wanted his head. They would have wanted to see blood. They would have wanted him to, not breathe another second. They didn't want him to serve a significant jail time. So for him sexually abusing your child and then recording it, whether or not he recorded it, but it was recorded, you don't want him to serve any kind of jail time? What kind of sense does that make? The prosecutor also said that important witnesses were unwilling to testify, so the video might not have been admissible as evidence, making a trial more difficult. He said a long sentence likely would have been overturned on appeal with a quick parole. The 860 days he had already spent in jail, would have counted toward his time served. Mr. Oldenburg said the psychologist did not believe Mr. Grooms was a high-risk candidate for committing more offenses. If Grooms was sent to prison for a long period of time rather than being sentenced to probation, he more than likely would be a greater risk to the community after his release than he will be after serving the sentence he received. It was not immediately clear whether the men in New Orleans and Ireland have been arrested. Now here's my thing. I don't understand how any of the things mentioned in this article matters. Whether or not the child had pain inflicted on them, whether or not the child was injured, whether or not the child understood or would remember what happened, I don't think that matters. And the fact that they think that he would be more of a risk if he had gone to prison. If he had gone to prison, I don't think he would have been more of a risk. Because the men in prison would have fucked the shit out of him. And he would understand what it felt like to be raped and molested. I think prison would have served him well. It would have served him very well. And I think it would have done him some good. But just because he's registered as a sex offender for the rest of his life, I don't see that as a punishment. I really don't see that as a punishment. Granted, he would never have a woman, want to be with him. Of course, there are some white women who that shit doesn't bother them. But I don't see how not giving him a sentence resulted in him, resulted in him being able to walk free. Basically, I mean, yeah, he has to be monitored, but still, he's out in the open. There are many sex offenders who are still in prison. And the fact that he was tried as an adult? Anyway, please like, comment, share, and subscribe, and tell me how y'all feel about this whole situation. Do you think that he should have served, jail time? Do you think he should be in prison? Let me know your thoughts. And I will talk to you all in the next video.